Shame-free life.
Hey, peace and blessings to your family. Hope you're doing well. This is Ronald Zion. Listen, if you haven't done so already, just do me a huge favor if you don't mind. Below there is a subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to the Shame-Free Life channel, please do me a huge favor. Click on that subscribe button, and right below it, or actually right beside it, smash that bell, because it will give you an instant notification whenever I do decide to go live or post a video just like now. And in the spirit of trauma recovery, and that's what we do, just go to our website, theshamefreelife.com, to see what we're offering as it relates to those who have experienced trauma in their lives. And we believe that it is the will of the Father. It's the will of God that we be made whole spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in every area, holistically in our lives. That is the will of our Father. Let's get right to it. I want to talk to you very briefly from the subject matter. If your enemies only knew. If your enemies only knew. You know, Apostle Paul, he reminds us in Romans chapter 8. He says in verse 28, and we know that all things work together for the good of them who love the Most High, Yahweh himself. Those who are a part of the call according to his purpose. Our Father has a purpose. He has a purpose for your life, for my life, our lives. But we are to know, have an understanding that everything is working for your good. I also want to submit another scripture. We're going to get right to it. If your enemies only knew. One of my favorite characters of the Bible happens to be Joseph. Not the earthly father of Yeshua, Jesus, but the other Joseph in the book of Genesis, beginning in chapter 39. Well, in the story of Joseph, there's a portion I want to bring to your memory or to your knowledge that God began to bless him. He was hated by his brothers. His own family hated him and wanted to kill him. And so Reuben stopped the brothers and say, listen, don't kill our brother. You know, please don't kill him. This is wrong. So they threw him in a pit. And from there, he was sold into slavery. From being a slave, he found himself in Potiphar's house, a military general, if you will, to Pharaoh. And he began to serve Potiphar, and Potiphar's house was blessed because Joseph was blessed. And we know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Most High, who are a part of the called according to his purpose. Joseph had a purpose. His purpose was blessed because the person was blessed. So therefore, Potiphar's house became a benefactor or benefited from the one who was blessed. If your enemies only knew. The man was falsely accused of a crime that he didn't commit, thrown into prison unjustly. And here we see Joseph. Didn't look like all things were working together for his good, but it was. He began to interpret dreams. The rest was history. His gifts made room for him. And Pharaoh called him, say, listen, I had this dream, interpret the dreams. He interpreted the dream. And as a result, he was placed in a position of prominence and power and influence. If your enemies only knew. And God began to bless now the whole administration and country of Egypt because of Joseph. Why? Because Joseph had a purpose. He was a part of the call according to the divine purpose in the earth. And so we see that now that his enemies didn't even understand what they were doing. Now, Joseph said something very interesting. He had two children that he named Manasseh and Ephraim. And they both had significant meanings or definitions to their names. He said, I believe it's around chapter 51 of Genesis, when his wife birthed Manasseh. He says that I named you Manasseh. And the meaning of your name, that God has allowed me to forget all of the evil, all of the hardship that I had to endure because of my family. Then his wife birthed a second child named Ephraim, and he called him Ephraim with an identity and a definition attached to his name. And Ephraim meant that Most High God have allowed me to be fruitful in the land where I was afflicted and where I suffered. So twofold, whenever I see my children, Manasseh, God allowed me to forget all of the trauma, all of the pain, all of the heartache, all of the betrayal, all of the injustice. Ephraim, hey, come here. Can you bring me a glass of water? Every time I see you, every time I call your name. God allowed me to be fruitful in a place that was hard, in a place of tribulation, in a place of injustice, in a place of being rejected, in a place of abuse, in a place of mistreatment. Every time I see you, every time I see you too, I get a joy on the inside. So I say all that to say this. If your enemies only knew that they were being employed, not by the devil, but by the Most High God, to push you to a place of power and prominence. If your enemies only knew that the betrayal, that the injustice, that talking behind your back, scandalizing your name, calling you everything but a child of the Most High, plotting on you, scheming against you, doing all matters of wickedness against you. If your enemies only knew, though they're being used by the devil, but they're being employed by the Most High God who is over the devil. If your enemies only knew, out of the uncomfortableness that you feel, out of the tears that you cry, out of the injury of trauma that was inflicted upon you, if your enemies only knew that out of that place of uncomfortableness, out of that place of warfare, out of that place of brokenness, that they are pushing you to a place of greatness, of power, of prominence, of purpose, that they are literally working for your good. Now I can understand what Apostle Paul meant. And we know that means that we need to get to a place of maturity. Yes, those things have happened to you. Yes, those things injured you. Yes, those things were just downright dirty and low down, what was done to you. But out of all of the hell that you have gone through, that the very ones that instituted the trauma and the brokenness and the injustice and the rejection and the plots and plans and schemes and pitfalls that injured you, it is pushing you to the place of entrepreneurship. It is pushing you to the place of now going back to school to get that degree. It is pushing you to a place of being self-sustaining. It is pushing you out of the comfort zone of just living life just lackadaisical and just being mediocre, just living life to just pay bills. It's now pushing you to a place that you would never have gotten to if it had not been for your enemies, if it had not been for your frenemies, if it had not been for your phony classmates, the phony people that are maybe in your local assembly of worship. Selah. So, what the scripture is clearly showing me from a trauma recovery coaching standpoint, that it brings us to a place of maturity in understanding that I don't like where I am. I don't like what was done to me. I don't like what was said about me. I don't like what was perpetrated against me. But all of this is working for my good. If my enemies only knew that they were helping me and not hindering me. If my enemies only knew that all they were doing were putting their hands on the doorknob to open the door of opportunities for me. If my enemies only knew of how they were aiding me in recovering from the injury that they're responsible for, they would stop helping me. Because out of them hurting me, they actually are helping me get to a much better place of power, prominence, discipline, self-control, focus like never before. Laser focus. And that is the will of the Father. I'll leave you with this. People applaud Peter when he told Yeshua, Jesus, listen, when Yeshua said that, hey, listen, I've got to go to the cross. I got to go through all of these things. It's going to happen. Hey, I was born for this moment. Peter said, nah, man. No. Dude, you ain't going out like that. I got my sword that you told me to pick up. You know, in 2022, hey, man, I got my AR. I got my M16, dude. I got my sidearm. I got a 40 cal. And I got a 50 cal right here. Nah, dude, you ain't going out like that, because the first one to try to take you, man, I'm busting on them. You're not going to die. No, it ain't going down like that. We need you here. You ain't going to die. Then Yeshua had to rebuke him. You're not mindful of the things of the Most High, but you're being used by the enemy right now. Now, most people will say that was very honorable. And that was very admirable of what Peter did and how Peter handled that moment. But according to Yeshua, it wasn't. But to us, it was. So it wasn't Peter in keeping him from the cross, keeping him from the resurrection, keeping him from the ascension, and keeping him from distributing every power and every ounce of focus that Jesus had, that he would give to us, because he said the greater things that you should do, because I'm going away with the Father. So you see me cast out devils, you see me lay hands on the sick, you see me preach the gospel, you see me feed the poor, you see me about these people out here in these streets that's in need. Well, listen, not only should you be doing that, not only should you be walking on water, not only should you be walking through walls, not only should you be multiplying a two-piece fish dinner into a $30, $40, $50,000, $50,000 meal for the masses of people, but you should be doing greater than me. So it wasn't Peter that kept him from the cross that we should focus on. It was the Judas that lied, that worked against him, that betrayed him, that sold him for 30 pieces of silver. It was Judas that pushed him to the cross, thus pushing him to the resurrection. Listen, this is the time that I'm talking about. The time of understanding, the time of enlightenment, the time of maturity. If your enemies only knew. This is what time it is. It's time for us to come to terms to come to a resolution of everything that has happened to me in my life. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could do it over. I wish I could start all over again. If you could give me the opportunity now, God, I would not have to go through all of that. But going through all of that made me all of this. If your enemies only knew that they are being employed to work for you. Peace and blessings. Love you to life. Like my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, The Shame-Free Life. And this is how we're coming, and this is how we're gunning to make sure that you are the best version of yourself, because nobody can do what you're called and created to do but you, if only your enemies knew. Talk to you later. Peace and blessings to you.
Yeah, shame-free life, shame-free life, shame-free life, yeah. Shame-free life, shame-free life, shame-free life, shame-free life.